Hello.
Hey Miss, hey Parker.
Yes, as you're coming in, just stamp your avatar on your experience with accessibility. You have a lot to learn, you know all the things, or you're somewhere in the middle. As you're coming in, stamp your avatar on our interactive flashcard there. Your experience with accessibility. We have a lot who are here to learn, right? Give a moment for some other people to join. We've got some more people coming in here. Drop in the chat where you're joining us from, and then stamp your avatar on our interactive flashcard on what your experience is with accessibility. Are you just learning? Do you know all the things? Are you somewhere in the middle? How are you joining us today? Right. I think we'll get started in about a minute here. Get some people in the middle there too. A couple people in the middle, a lot of people starting at the beginning. That's probably the best place to start. Got London. Ooh. I love London. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end our music here. And it looks like everyone's had a chance to stamp on their flashcard on where how they're joining us today, with what knowledge are you bringing, and being a beginner is also okay in every situation. Beginner's mind is great to enter with that. It also gives you this sense of wonder and curiosity, and I like that we're all entering like that today. Or even if you have a little knowledge, I'm sure you're still entering with some of that wonder. So I'm going to go ahead and close our flashcard here, and I'm really excited to have Marie here today. And I had the honor to meet her when we were dry running, and I just, first of all, I love the calmness you bring to a room. I don't know if I told you this before, but I had this like sense of zen when we're doing, even when we're talking through things, and I just love that sense of calmness that you bring to a room. And your background in accessibility for facilitation is not something I've seen a lot, right? And so I'm really excited about this session. You know, people talk about it on web and all these different kind of things, but I haven't really seen it talked about in this way for a facilitation, and especially in virtual facilitation, where it's gotten more and more prevalent in the coming years. And so I think this topic is super important. I think what you teach and what you do is really important. I'm really happy to have you here, Marie. And so I am going to pass it over to you and just let you go, and let's see what we're going to learn.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the Butter community for welcoming me.
and for setting up this meeting, Rachel and Maria, and thank you all of you too for being there. It's great to have you. Good afternoon, boa tarde, bună ziua. I only speak just a few of the languages in the room. It's always really fun to see you. And so I wanted to walk you through an exercise because indeed I noticed there was not a lot of talk about accessibility in facilitation or workshop leading in general. I myself am hard of hearing. I have ADHD and anxiety, and I've worked for many years with people with disabilities. And I was kind of deploring the fact that this is not really part of the curriculum for workshop leaders or just leaders or managers in general. And so I'm hoping to make this more accessible as well and more available to all of you. And so I'm just going to need a little bit of help from from the folks at Butter. So this is, yes, okay, this is how I move to the next part of the agenda. I've lost my touch on Butter, sorry. And so I wanted to first share a few notes about accessibility in order to make this session work for you. Hold on, let me close the window here. There you go. You can activate the captions if that's useful for you. And you can actually do this when you hover your mouse over the microphone button. And there you will notice that there is noise suppression. There's also a closed captions that is available along with the other audio settings that might support you for your session. For many people, this is really useful. Not necessarily because you may be hard of hearing, but maybe because English is not your mother tongue, as it is not for me. And sometimes you are able to catch a little bit more. Captioning software is usually about 93, 96% accurate these days, so it's actually quite useful still. You can deactivate the chat GIFs, the gadgets, the chat GIFs if you find them distracting or overwhelming. And so this is something you can do in your settings at the top right if you are in the app like me. And from there, in the main general settings, you can actually disable GIFs in chat. You can disable chat pop-ups, emoji reactions. If you find them distracting or overwhelming for any reason, you can do that. And also, whenever we are sharing our screen, there's also going to see a little lightning bolt icon appear. And this is what allows you to activate focus mode and can really focus on what we're sharing. So that can be useful. And then another thing as well that I wanted to share with you from our agenda as well is a little bit about the engagement norms. Some of you are able to join us on camera. That's awesome. Some of you maybe are not able because it's not possible for you right now. That's also great. We're so very happy to have you. And so we want you to be able to engage at the level that you're at. Feel free to eat, stretch. If you need to, if this is your little break in between two meetings and this is when you get to grab a snack, please do that. We'd love to see you, but if you can turn off your camera, if it's supportive for you. And breakout rooms are not recorded. We will only enter them if you need help with anything. So they're not recorded, they're not monitored in any way. So that's the other thing I wanted to share with you. Feel free to share your name before starting to speak as well. That can be also another practice we bring here. And that's it for the engagement norms. Another thing quickly wanted to share with you today before we move on to another exercise for you. What we'll do is we'll look at best practices. We will simulate a scenario and generate some proactive and reactive solutions to having participants with access needs. I say access needs because not everybody with those needs may identify as being disabled for themselves. So just using that as a generic term for anyone who in this current situation or in general needs support with access. And we might troubleshoot some general situations that may or have come up in your workshops. We'll definitely don't have the time to explain basic concepts around disability and why we should include people with disabilities, or dive deep into the implications for physical workshops or like the legislation in each country, just because for a time, although I'd love to dig into this conversation with you later if that's useful. And we won't have time to dig deep into a specific user case. I hope that's helpful just to clarify. And the next thing I wanted to check with you is to give you a chance to discuss in pairs. And I think we have 1, 2, 3, right up. We have about pairs, or maybe we have a pair of 3. I would like to to send you into pairs to discuss what would be a good metaphor for accessibility in online workshops. And we'll give you about 4 minutes to discuss that. And then, as you can imagine, when you come back, we'll invite you to share the pearls of wisdom that you came up with in your breakouts. And so let me just check the chat quickly here. There we go. So I'm going to now launch the breakouts, and I think it's just going to catapult all of you randomly into pairs, or maybe pairs of 3. All right, let's go. I'll see you in 4 minutes. Welcome back, everybody. And oh, Tamara, hi. It's nice to see like people you know in real life, and also like people you know from online, and new friends are joining us. Fantastic. Okay. So I would love to harvest some of the great ideas that you came up with. So you had a task to discuss what would be a good metaphor for accessibility in facilitation, online facilitation, perhaps. And so here, I'm sorry, Charlotte. Yes, indeed, there were some issues, so you were not able to complete your conversation. If you were able to get some ideas started, feel free to share in the answers what you came up with. So I've now launched a poll. Each of you can share a metaphor. Yes. Let's see. All right, so I'm seeing all the answers. Am I seeing all the answers? I'm just seeing one answer.
Yeah, Anna Maria, it says 5 out of 9, but I only see 2.
Yes, that's because we can also not answer. We can opt. If we don't have an answer, we can say we don't have an answer. And then the poll counts it as an answer.
I see.
Yeah, which is also fine. So we have glass doors that should be broke, but that sometimes you cannot see. Glass doors that should be broken, but that sometimes you cannot see. And trying to get childcare for your employees, ? Yes. I'd love to also dig a little bit deeper in the answers. I like the idea also of like a glass partition. I think this is what I have understand it correctly, but feel free to correct me. The glass partition like that exists that can block some people from going through, but like some people see it and some people do not. Is this how you had it in mind, Ines?
Yes.
Do I understand it correctly?
Yeah, I was with Elish, and she actually was the one who suggested this wonderful metaphor, because when we think about accessibility, you think about barriers that need to be broken, and she had this idea about glass doors that sometimes you're not aware of, that you cannot see, but still need to be broken, like those barriers.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a really nice metaphor. I can appreciate it only had 4 minutes to come up with a good one. Maybe by the end of the session, some of you also will have an opportunity to share more metaphors or more ideas. And I will also get back to you, Parker. I wanted to also give you a chance to share some examples of good examples that you have seen of accessibility in action in workshops, in sessions, in meetings, perhaps. And so I'd love to hear what would be one or several great examples. If you have no answer because you haven't witnessed that, then that's also an answer you can give us.
Check it.
I'm not sure if I mentioned it also at the beginning, but if for whatever reason you find the music distracting or too loud to your taste, you can also go into the upwards right sound icon, and you can also adjust what the sound effects in music are doing and how they are in relation to each other. So there was, yes, Ines mentioned someone introducing themselves and giving their own physical description for people that cannot see. There was having a breakout for people who cannot unmute and contribute to the conversation right now due to different reasons. I've seen this done as well, and I've seen this done very, very elegantly as well. The Butter accessibility features, I especially like to be able to hide GIFs. I think this is a great function because indeed, I mean, here it's just like 11 of us, but when you have like, you know, close to 100 or above, the GIF game, as strong as it is, gets to be a little bit overwhelming. Automated closed captioning, facilitators being very aware of technical barriers and constantly offering support. Facilitators and participants using short descriptions of what is showing in their camera, describing things on slides. That's very useful. Live translator for big conferences. Not just using colors, but text, shapes and patterns to define elements, enlarging sign language interpreters' video feed. Those are all really nice examples. I wanted to maybe invite Caroline to share a little bit more as well about this idea about colors, but also text, shapes, and patterns to define certain elements. Would you be in a position to share a little bit more about what that might look like for the others?
Sure. Can you hear me? Good. Yeah, I mean this one because I remember once when I was, having like a very simple activity online. It was like an onboarding, and one of my new colleagues, he actually commented that, people use it like circles. So each person had a colored circle to do something. But he was like, I actually have issues with some colors. So if you did, another shape or a pattern, it would be much easier for me to understand which color I'm actually moving. And it was, super simple. It was onboarding even. So it made me feel that, actually it's good if you have this kind of things already taught in advance. So people have more ways to identify what is theirs. And you are already being a little bit more inclusive in case someone has something, but they don't wish to share about it.
Thank you. I think that's a really good one. I have another version of this workshop in which I invite people to download one of those Chrome or Firefox browsers that give you the chance to experience what a website or an application looks like if you're colorblind, if you have this kind of color blindness, if you have this kind of visual impairment. And indeed, just using just colors as like markers is unfortunately not working for a lot of people. I also learned when I studied accessibility that some color blindnesses you can be born with. Some of them you can acquire through life, which I thought was shocking. So yeah, I didn't know that. So yeah, apparently like a big blow to the head can give you like blue, yellow color blindness. So just yeah, it's useful for people, and we may all come to maybe come into contact with why it's important for others as well. That's really useful. Thank you all for sharing. And so we wanted to share some examples. We also wanted to give you a chance to think about some situations that you might be as a workshop leader or a trainer or facilitator. I'm not sure exactly in what role you position yourself. Maybe you're a team leader, and to think of what you could do both proactively, so meaning in terms of design, which tools are we going to use, which kind of documents are we going to use, to take the example of here, if you're going to design graphics, to make sure that the graphics are accessible, but also how you may react in the moment. If somebody in the moment in your workshop says, hey, I'm not able to use Mural, for example, because I'm using a keyboard to control my, my cursor, because some people, may have like mobility impairments that make it difficult for them to have like a smooth scroll across the page. What might you do? in that situation? How might you react in order to make sure that it's an inclusive experience, but also minding that you don't want to create like a moment where somebody feels like singled out by your reaction in a moment. So it's a delicate balancing act. And so for this, we have designed a little exercise for you. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit through it before I send you into the breakouts, just to make sure that it's all clear for all of you. We will have 4 breakout rooms. And I'm a visiting clarinet. Hold on, let me see if I can. How do I? I'm seeing it, but I'm seeing the. Hold on. I need to enter my name. Oh, there we go. So you should be seeing a mural that pulls up on your screen. And if you had the same thing as me, you can actually just put in your name and then press enter, because it didn't show the whole screen. And from there, you will see 4 boards. There will be one board in which we talk and we discuss what kind of things we could do in anticipation of the workshop and during the workshop for people with visual impairments. There will be group 2, and you should be seeing an outline also come up on the right, so that makes it easier for you to navigate between the different parts. Do let me know if it would be easier for me to share my screen and describe what I see rather than share this right now. So if you have any issues in seeing this, let me know. So the second one will be to think about what we can do to support people with hearing impairments. Yes, thank you, Rachel. The third one, will be about neurodivergence. We talked earlier about the neurospices. And so what might we do to support people who are neurodivergent in groups? And what might we do to support people with mobility impairments in, and here we're thinking about online workshops, but that even though we may think of someone, who cannot walk or who uses a wheelchair, as someone with a mobility impairment, there can be other kinds of mobility impairments that may affect how you interact with an online workshop. To make this easy and to give you a chance to discuss in small groups your topics of preference or affinity, we have created breakout rooms that you can go and choose whichever one you like out of the 4. And in the 15 minutes that we will give you there, you can actually move between groups. So you could even potentially visit all 4 of the groups, or maybe just 3 or 2, or maybe just 1. You'd like to dig deep on one of those. And you'll have the freedom to go and join one of these groups and also join the board at the same time and capture your ideas in post-its in the proactive, so that's what you do anticipatively, and reactive, meaning in the moment, in order to accommodate those participants. Right. So maybe I'll stop sharing this closed mural for a second, and I'll invite you to give me a thumbs up emoji or a real life thumbs up if those instructions are clear for you.
I'm sorry, it's asking me to sign into Mural to access it. Should it?
Yes, so you don't actually need to sign in. You just need to enter your name, Ines, and then press enter. It does not.
No, it's only asking me for email and to sign in. I don't know if someone else.
It has an email field, but there should be a button underneath that says enter as visitor.
Okay.
And I think it should open in your Butter. It'll be in the Butter, so you shouldn't actually see it anymore, and it'll open when we go into the breakout rooms.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So if there's anything that's unclear about these instructions, do let me know. What we'll also have the chance to do is to go and visit some of the groups, or also you can call for help. What I will do is the moment I press the breakout room session start button, I will also maybe lean a bit on Anna Maria to help us to explain a little bit, how can you go and choose the room you're interested in? Would that work? All right. So we'll start this, and then if not, I'll see you in a maximum of 15 minutes. All right. See you very soon.
So the way you find the rooms is at the top of the screen. You will be able to move between the rooms. The moment Marie will send us off.
Hear what you, I'd love to debrief a little bit how this exercise was for you and some of the insights that you have gathered. Could I maybe get like, I don't know, there's a couple of, you could raise your hand or, you know, you can press a little button that puts your hand in a queue if you have a comment or a question. Or you would also share your contribution in the chat if that's easier for you. I'd love to hear some of the insights or the things that maybe that surprised you that people contributed in the session, in the mural. I don't know if you had a chance to see also what the others contributed after maybe you left your room. Caroline, yes, Caroline, go ahead.
Yes, so from our side, one of the things that we were commenting about visual impairment is the importance of sending things to people before the session. So they actually have a chance to read everything. And in this case, like the last comment we were having was actually about videos. Like how should we manage with that in case a video is interesting, but we know that some people may not be able to see it. So we were actually commenting about, sending it, maybe if it's short, we can actually describe a little bit to the person what is happening so they know what to expect when they are watching. But yeah, like we are still thinking about ideas for that because most of them for sure we need to prepare in advance. But if that happened during the session, most likely we would need to have some kind of short version of what happened so at least we can explain to people.
Yeah, I think that helps for a lot of folks to explain what happens ahead of time or send information ahead of time. It's helpful for people who are neurodivergent, also people who have intellectual disabilities or any kind of like cognitive impairment, also who may need more time, or so who just generally do better when they have more time to reflect on what they're going to do in the session. Thank you for sharing, Caroline. We'll have time to take the contributions from Tamara and Elise also briefly, and then we'll just do another quick debrief. Tamara, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for this session and the exercise. It's very thought-provoking. And one thing coming to mind when going through the groups was, I wonder if there is a strong case for having a co-facilitator, because I wonder how feasible it is to be facilitating the material, making sure things are going ahead, maybe sharing your screen, etc. This is like from a personal experience. There's a lot going on already. And then you're trying to provide information in a variety of different formats and responding to things in the moment. And so I feel like in the times when I've had somebody else on hand so we can share those duties, that has been a huge help. And perhaps that should be like the leading practice or the best practice in order to actually deal with things in the moment and provide that inclusive experience. Just a thought.
Yeah, I agree with you because I mean, for me, it's been such a lifesaver to have like Rachel taking like captions, for example, to explain like this is how you raise your hand and so on in Butter, and having Anna Maria being like our like technical expert also like on how this is really I think even for many sessions, no matter how complex, because you cannot multiply yourself, you might need some extra help. I'd love to take the contribution from Elise as well. Elise, yes.
Yes. So one thing we mentioned in the group, we're talking about hearing impairment, but I think it also might apply almost to all groups, is to kind of get to know who your participants are and what their requirements or needs are beforehand, because we might even think that we know what the barriers are, but we might find solutions for those barriers that are not necessarily the best ones for the specific participants we have. So the more we actually know about the requirements of the specific people who will be in the room, the better we can actually provide whatever they need.
Thank you. I think that's a really good observation. There's one thing I wanted to share because I've developed these checklists. I think, it shows up as a link in the chat. I've developed these checklists that you can use to kind of like think about all the things that you may want to prepare in advance, but also communicate in advance about your event. there's a fine line between asking people to disclose a disability or an impairment and also trying to some extent, provide as much information upfront as you can so that the disclosure can be as limited and pointed as possible. That's one remark. And also the thing is, sometimes sign language will be the best solution for a particular group of participants. But sometimes it's important to remember that only 5% of people who are deaf or hard of hearing speak sign language. And there's 200 sign languages in the world. So which one do we use? ASL, BSL, like another one. So it's good to understand what will be supportive and not just to jump to a conclusion of to what will be supportive. I love the idea, Charla, of like digging deeper, because indeed in 1 hour we just surface many of the things. I will be also kind of like summarizing some of the inputs that you've shared on the mural, which you still have access to after this session, so that we're able to understand also some of the top ideas of things you can do beforehand. A lot of it is preparation, and also what some of the things you can do during the session to make sure it's supportive. And so a final sort of like harvest I wanted to do with you all is to ask you, what is a top accessibility tip that you're taking with you for your next online workshop practice? Now, I'm thinking of this because we're working online, but maybe some of these will apply to offline as well. And of course, if there's nothing that comes to mind, you can also say, I have no answer. Yeah, co-facilitation being key, using not only colors, but also shapes, having files and videos shared in advance so people can come more prepared. Tip sheet for participants for the settings. That could be an idea, Anna Maria, right? To have like a tip sheet of like all the accessibility and like customization features. So that people can, for example, I turned off the music. I found it distracting during the things. I mean, that's just for me. I have an auditory impairment, so I can't like deal with too many channels for sounds at the same time. It stresses me out. Try to ascertain participants' accessibility needs in advance. Use a platform that offers key accessibility features. Mark colors with other symbols. Awesome. I like that. I'd love to get maybe like an emoji reaction or a reaction in the chat. Are there some of these tips that you could see yourself starting to implement from today or maybe tomorrow at the end of the day, however it comes? Yeah. Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, I'm really loving the energy that all of you have put into this. I hope you got some inspiration and some ideas for things that you can start doing today. I hope for those of you who placed yourself at the beginning, at sort of like at the beginning of the curve, that this session gives you a chance to consider how you might grow on this curve, and hopefully also through the community how we can support you with that. I'm going to share another link in the chat of sort of like a compilation of resources that I make available to people. Most of them are free, maybe also some of them are paid, but I mean, if it's useful for you, I'm working on developing a data bank of resources for accessible facilitation and accessible leadership in general, because I couldn't find it. So it's the story of my life. I couldn't find it, so I'm trying to make it happen by myself. There we go. And with this, if there are any other comments or any burning questions or burning remarks from the audience here, I think we could still take one more comment, and then I'm going to hand over to our lovely organizers. Anything else that you really like to share with us? Feel free to put your hand up in the queue. Nothing more. Yes, Anna Maria, over to you.
I was wondering what kind of best practices do you have for that capturing your audience's needs beforehand? Does that usually take the shape of a survey? How does that look like?
So I'm thinking of there's this article I linked to it in the resources, the accessibility checklist by a disabled activist called Mia Mingus, and she talks about this thing where people with disabilities are expected to just put like all their needs in one little box in a survey. And it basically puts the onus on disabled people to like disclose a whole host of like maybe medical things or like intimate things. And so the idea is, I love the idea of providing as much information upfront as possible about the tool and the platforms and the methods, and this is the agenda, and there's going to be breaks, and this is where they are, and so on, so that you minimize whatever actually needs to be in that box for people to say, oh, and on top of what you've communicated, actually, I will need this, or I will need that, or so my strategy, although it is like the long road home, my strategy is to take the effort to give as much information upfront as possible about the session and what it will involve, and for example, what technology might imply. And for example, I'm also now realizing, telling people, hey, we're going to be using murals, so it's going to be like difficult on some platforms more than others, so that people can know if they want to show up, first of all, and if they do, how they are able to show up. If I tell people, hey, it's okay to show up without your camera on, we're not going to expect that, or so to like lower the standard, it can also make the barrier for accessibility easier. I've covered a bit more of this, like this thinking in the checklist, but I think it's on top of asking people how you can be supportive of them. I think it's important to consider not putting like all the responsibility on them to disclose. So it's a bit of a balancing act. Yeah, sorry, that's
thanks.
long answer.
That's great. Yeah, this is great. It's great. Thank you very much. Yes.
And with this, thank you. I would like to hand over to Rachel and Maria, and thank you both again for hosting this ButterMixer for me. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was just gonna say, what you just said kind of reminds me of my introvertedness sometimes. If someone invites me to an event and they don't give me all the information, especially if they don't tell me where to park, or especially living in a city, and if they don't tell me that, then I'm super anxious and might even say no to participating in it. So I was using that kind of story in my head when you were talking about expectation setting. And we just want to thank you for being here. We've got some links in the chat that I believe we'll send out in the follow-up, including you had mentioned the mural link, and so we'll make sure that everyone has that. And of course, you're always welcome to come and continue the conversation in the Butter community, and we'll get, if you're not already there, we'll get some links out to you to join that in our follow-up as well. And again, just want to thank everyone and thank Marie. I think this is a super important topic, and I'm glad that you could join us. Anna Maria has posted the community link for Butter. It's free to join, so we hope to see you there.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you very much. Thank you all.
It was great to see Alice, Ines, Parker, everyone, Caroline, Tamara, Marie, Charlie, Rachel. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.